Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and that must mean it's time for another Food for Thought Friday. Have you ever felt yourself laughing at the absolute worst time? Maybe you've just received some bad news, or maybe you've witnessed some unwelcomed fate befall another. Not sure why. Perhaps the awkwardness of the situation brought about the laugh response. Well, as it turns out, this isn't altogether uncommon, and there may be a very good reason why it happens. If you don't already know, I've got a passion for bridging the gap between scientific, scholarly research, specifically in the behavioral sciences, and real-world, real-life practical application. And this week, I've revisited a paper that I read in graduate school called Whatever Gets You Through Today, Examination of Cynical Humor Among Emergency Service Professionals. This paper was published in 2010 in the Journal of Loss and Trauma. And as always, I'm going to get a screenshot of it somewhere here on the screen. Now, this paper really is fantastic, and it touches on the use and the function of humor within the context of emergency service professionals, including paramedics, firefighters, police, physicians, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. I'm going to read a brief section off the top, and then I'm going to share some of the insights from the paper. So, opening quote. In a study comparing stress in 26 high-demand occupations from a database of 25,000 individuals, paramedics ranked first in terms of negative impact on physical health, and police officers ranked ninth. Firefighters ranked third in negative impacts on psychological well-being, followed by paramedics. In terms of low job satisfaction, paramedics ranked second, police third, followed by nurses, 7th, medical personnel, 8th, and other healthcare professionals, 9th. Other studies considering distress related to trauma exposure among emergency service professionals point to trauma symptoms at levels consistent with the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. Research on families of emergency service professionals suggests that occupational stresses significantly affect the quality of interpersonal relationships with the family. Cardiac responses, such as elevated heart rate, have been identified in emergency service professionals following a stressful event on the job. These responses do not diminish by the end of the shift, but are rather carried home. A large body of literature considers various coping strategies employed by emergency service professionals and the mediating effects of coping on stress and distress. Of the multiple types of coping used by these emergency services, one of the most familiar is cynical or gallows humor. Gallows humor generally involves the juxtaposition of morbid and farcical elements. It's a humorous response that appears inappropriate or illogical in the face of hopeless situations. Coleman, another researcher, argues that gallows humor is a philosophical attitude, a way to maintain sanity under insane circumstances. Closing quote. So, I would encourage you to continue reading the paper, access it yourself, read it in its entirety. It's very interesting stuff. But here are 3 key takeaways that I got from the reading. Number 1, in the face of tragedy, trauma, or stress, humor, specifically dark humor in this research, but perhaps humor more generally, creates group cohesion for survival. Now, there is some other research by Madwell and Ponce Garcia from 2016, as well as Richardson from 2017, illustrating that cohesive family unit and supportive coworker networks aid in the increase of resilience. So if humor creates cohesion, we can probably make the not too distant connection as to how this plays out. So humor is good. Furthermore, there's research by Murden et al. In 2018 and Rowe and Rieger from 2010, suggesting that humor acts to reduce stress and anxiety in high-stress emergency situations. So, number 1, humor creates group cohesion. Number 2, insight from this research. Dark humor relieves negativity in a socially acceptable way. Provides a socially acceptable pressure relief valve. So we don't have to internalize and bottle up the negativity. We can laugh about it, make jokes, process together. I will add a cautionary note on this one. This is intended to be done in a socially acceptable way. So be wise, beware, be fair. Alright, number 3. Dark humor, perhaps any humor, more generally allows us to distance ourselves so we can appropriately act in the face of trauma, stress, or danger. There's a term for this type of distancing, and it's called rational detachment. It's the ability to manage one's behavior and emotion in the face of stress and anxiety. So there you have it. Why do we find ourselves that we laugh uncontrollably? Well, it's probably a hardwired mechanism to get these benefits. Group cohesion, the ability to distance ourselves, and appropriately, in a socially appropriate way, deal with the current negativity. So if you happen to work in a high-stress environment where you might be exposed to secondhand trauma, let me encourage you. I'm going to say this with no shade of humor attached. Trauma is cumulative. We know that from the research. Trauma is cumulative. Trauma can be experienced secondhand. They say that laughter is the best medicine, and I'm not entirely sure about that. There are circumstances where medicine is the best medicine, and therapeutic intervention is a great partner to medication. That aside, laughter definitely has a measurable impact. So get out there, laugh at something funny. A disgruntled cat. I don't know. Hey, check out my article here on resilience. Link it somewhere here in the notes. Let's show you a screenshot here on the screen. Check out my article on resilience. Anyways, I hope that one helps. Follow me for more.